Mojo50 Radio. The Millennial Conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
Good evening. Odd way to start the show, but appropriate for the situation. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Holloway. I am your host of the Holonet on Mojo50 Radio. This is going to be a little bit of a weird show because it is a show that is coming now at a time of great transition. It's a time of great transition both for Mojo50 Radio and also for the Holonet and for me personally. Now, there have been a lot of changes to the Mojo50 network, and I'm not going to really be discussing those at length, and I want you to realize that what they presented is an opportunity for me. In 2017, the Holonet was created to establish a forum for discourse and representation from the Millennial Conservative perspective. That's why I did this. Okay? It was done in the hope that it could bring about more earnest, principled, and reasoned political conversation in a nation that was becoming too divided to continue. For 5 years, starting with Lanterns Media Network and then moving on to Mojo50, while good work was done and informed discussions were had, and we had some very fun times and some very amazing times, we delved into topics that you might not listen to ordinarily. The Holonet never completely lived up to its very lofty goals. That's a fact. In the light of day, I have to recognize that. So, when I tell you that the recent situation and the recent, let's be honest, upheaval at Mojo50 Radio has presented an opportunity for me, that's not an exaggeration. I'm going to let you know right now, I have no intention at this time of stepping away from Mojo50 at all. It's a company that I respect, people that I care about, and people that I intend to stand beside and behind as we continue to see this through. But in the year 2022, 5 years on from the birth of the Holonet, living under a hostile, illegitimate, unconstitutional regime and strangled by censorship from collaborators in big tech, it has become crystal friggin' clear. The original initiative that birthed the Holonet failed. It has failed. We're more divided than ever, with the realistic prospect of internal conflict looming large in this country. I have more shows that feature the keyword Civil War II or Second Civil War than I care to even look up. I'm pretty sure I'm on a list somewhere because of it. However well-intentioned the Holonet initiative was, it was likely doomed from its inception. Entering into the talk radio field in 2017 was entering into an already very crowded market with a lot of young, fresh talent who were looking to make a start. Okay? It wasn't just me. There were a lot of hosts. You know, Andrew Coppins, Patrick Oney, The Defenders Live, Watson Prunier, new voices. Tons of us. We were all getting our starts back then on Lanterns, then on Mojo when Doc Thompson, Brad Staggs, and Ron Phillips, and Matt Locke at that time decided to, and Beth Knott, I can't ignore Beth, decided to stake their own claim and build something up along the same path that Glenn Beck had blazed with, the same path that he had forged, without using a pun, with the Blaze prior to that GBTV, and that was followed by Daily Wire, Daily Caller, Louder with Crowder. It seemed like there was an open market for this and the sky was the limit. What we didn't realize was it was a very crowded market, but it was a very crowded market that had a lot of room for growth, except it was about to be systematically destroyed, annihilated wholesale. With conservatism finally becoming energized as a countercultural movement through the guiding concept of America First, which ushered President Trump into office and ushered a whole new breed of conservatives, of small government, America First conservatives into office nationwide, in Congress, in state legislatures, in local judicial, governmental and judicial positions. The left felt for the first time an existential terror. And that is what we started to see immediately. As soon as it became evident that Trump was going to be the nominee, that is what we saw. That's the protests in the streets. That's the riots. That's the pussy hats. That's all of it, is the left collectively losing their because they knew that this was an existential threat to them, that the conservative movement had finally become energized and the left panicked. But their panic, and I'm talking the establishment left now, the good old boys, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Cuomo, forgot about him. All these old guard Democrats suddenly said the only way to counter this, they had to dance with the devil. They had to embrace the most radical wing of their movement. And they did. Their desire, their existential dread, their need to defeat this newly energized conservative movement led them to embrace the most destructive, radical possible elements of the left. And now it has subsumed them. It is the most astonishing combination of the worst evils in the world you would ever see. You have the ultra-far left radical identitarians, Black Lives Matter types, if you will, where it's all about racial politics, critical race theory, all of that. Then you have your LGBTQ, AAIP plus minus whatever the hell rights people, okay, who are pushing the transgender, gender as a spectrum, non-biological sex agenda. Where anything goes, it's hedonism. That's what it is, plain and simple. It's hedonistic. It's anything goes, right? Moral relativism, not objectivism and not moral absolutism, okay? Moral relativism is a farce. They embraced all these things. We went from, what was it, safe and rare, to shout your abortion. Where an abortion is a thing to be celebrated. The ending of a life, whether you believe that to be a murder, which I do, or you just believe it to be, the cessation of a pregnancy, to put the nicest possible spin on it, is to be celebrated. They embraced the most radical possible tenets of their party, and they brought their corporate sponsors with them. The establishment left has been spending decades, over a century actually, infiltrating and taking over not just academia, but also the boardroom, the corporations, big tech. All these things came out of UCLA and Berkeley, Harvard, Yale, MIT. Because the academia led to the corporate. And now the corporate takeover is almost complete. The most powerful companies in the world have largely embraced the woke or leftist agenda. They aligned with this movement. It has subsumed them. It has taken them over. And now, old Democrats, I just think of them as just the biggest sleaze bags you could possibly imagine. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the other elder Democrat leaders so desperate to hang on to power to the bitter end. in their 70s, 80s, some cases 90s, holding on to that power with a grasping, clutching death grip. Manufactured from greed and lust for control. We're so desperate that now the radicals run them. Lock, stock, and barrel wholesale. And it is under this environment and in these conditions that the most insane, corporately led and executed censorship in the history of America has been unleashed. And it has been unleashed upon whom? Upon conservatives. Upon conservative content creators. For 5 years, the HoloNet has been built. I built it up best I could, using the tools that were available. But the tools that were available, the marketplace I was seeking to enter, were dominated by companies that aren't just disinterested, but were actively working to destroy conservative content creators. The primary platform that this show was hosted on, it's Facebook. Meta. Okay? Think about that for a minute. YouTube. I got a hard strike on YouTube. I have 78 subscribers on YouTube, and they hit me with a content hard strike. You know why? Because I ran video, live streaming, January 6th. Because I put up video where you can actually hear the Buffalo Man, the Q Shaman, Jake Anglin speak. So you can actually hear what he says. That's why they hit me with a hard strike. But the hammer came down. And why the hammer came down does not matter. The hammer finally came down, not just on me, but on Mojo 50 Radio as a whole. The hammer came down and smashed iHeart, which is the biggest platform in podcasting, bar none. iHeart, by the way, owns Spreaker. The more you know. They put Mojo 50 on suspension. We don't know why. We have a good idea why. Brad's talked about it. My opinion of the other host and his commentary and his attendance at AFPAC, I thought it was a duck, at AFPAC notwithstanding. Mojo 50 is a free speech station, and I hold to that. And the speech you hate, the speech you loathe, the speech that you would decry at the top of your very lungs with your last dying breath is the exact speech that you must defend. I don't accuse people of white nationalism unless they're calling for a white ethno-state. That is the definition of a white nationalist. I have not heard anybody on this network call for the existence of a white ethno-state. Period. Calling for public officials to have their life subscription revoked. Well, I think most of us on the right have done that at least once. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but again, not my place, not my job. It is under these circumstances, guys, gals, friends, my friends. I'm not John McCain. It is under these circumstances that we have always considered it is under these circumstances that what we have always considered to be conservatism has become painfully insufficient. Why? Is it because we don't hold those values? No, not at all. I hold those values, and I will continue to hold them unashamedly. that I am for personal responsibility and individual freedom. Individual freedom. Individual rights. The smallest minority is the minority of one. And if you don't protect the rights of a minority of one, you cannot say you protect minorities. It's what I love about this station. And its credo and its people. But the HoloNet was created as the Millennial Conservative resistance, and it begins right here, right now, with you. In 2022, the actions that we have seen from the left, from the corporate, the big tech, have demonstrated one thing indefatigably. The fact that Joe Biden is sitting in the White House right now. The fact that gas prices are topping $7 a gallon in some states. $4.59 here in Arizona. Whew. The fact that Russia is invading countries in Eastern Europe unchecked, unchallenged. The fact that we're back to the drawing board of discussions with Iran in 2022. The fact that we led the most painful and shameful military withdrawal since Saigon. All these things show me. All these things show me that the Millennial Conservative resistance has failed. We have failed, my friends. We have failed. We lost the ground. The battle is over. We lost. Point blank. Because they're in charge. They're not just in charge in Washington, D.C. No, they're in charge in New York. They're in charge in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in St. Louis, Cincinnati, Minneapolis. They're in charge in Richmond. They're in charge in Portland. They're working on it in Austin, Miami, Atlanta. We've lost in a huge way. Conservatives in America should feel some kinship to people in Taiwan right now. Because if there was an island off the coast that they could shove us all off to, they would have already. The Millennial Conservative resistance failed. The HoloNet, in its original goal, failed. But we as an American people do not have to fail. And we're not going to. Many of you have come to suspect, and I'm confirming it now, that today, on March 12th, 2022, this is the very last episode of the HoloNet on the mighty, the powerful Mojo 50 radio. It is not the last show for Matthew D. Holloway. I can tell you that much. I am not going any damn where. But if we continue as we have, if we pursue this as we have pursued it, if we continue on this course, unabated, unchecked, inflexible, heedless, mindless, it is the very definition of insanity. And we will continue to fail as we have already failed. There are articles out there, you can find them everywhere, The Atlantic, What Happened to American Conservatism, The New Republic, Conservatism is Dead, Financial Times, The Death Throes of Conservatism. Why? They say that conservatism is dead because of Donald Trump, because El Trumpo, Orange Man bad. Of course, they're completely foolish. They have no idea what they're talking about. If conservatism is dead, and I do believe we can honestly say that, yeah, conservatism is pretty much dead at this point. The only reason that we can say that it is dead is because everything that we sought to conserve in our national culture has been lost. So I don't want to sit here and talk about conserving anything anymore. Conserving is defeatist. Conservation is what you do when you're losing, when you've lost. When you're losing, you seek to conserve things from the onslaught of the enemy. You're going to conserve it. You're going to save it. It's already lost. What we need is restoration, a resurgence, a rebirth. So that is what is going to happen to the HoloNet. It's going to take time. I think it's probably going to take a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm going to keep writing. But the HoloNet needs to be reborn. Reorganized, rebranded. Just doing things the way that I've done them so far isn't working. And I don't want to waste your time. It's too precious a commodity. And right now we need all the time that we can get our hands on. Because we need to restore this country. The HoloNet initiative is over. The Millennial Conservative resistance is over. It's time for the American Restoration Initiative to begin. And I hope, I pray, that you'll come with me. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, go a little more into detail about what I have in mind. And I would love some of your input, some of your comments, some of your ideas. Real quick, before we go, I want to draw your attention to Fundly for the Magic Beans for Dave. This is the Magic Beans for Dave, DM, and Faith. The link will be in the description for this. Typically, I would do this spot for American Pride Roasters, but if you were not aware, Dave, the owner of American Pride Roasters, his wife Faith, and dog Mr. Clarence lost their home in the recent string of Iowa tornadoes. The damage is complete. All of Dave's equipment was handmade and was in the home at the time the tornado struck. They need help to rebuild their home, to rebuild their business, and I would ask you, if you have the wherewithal, if you're able, to see if you can help them. They've been great friends to the HoloNet and to Mojo 50 through all these years. And of course, Romika Design. That's owned by El Rondo and his family. Fantastic supporters and sponsors of Mojo 50. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what American restoration looks like. You're listening to the HoloNet on the mighty, the powerful Mojo 50 radio for the last time. Please stand by.
The past few days, when I've been at that window upstairs, I've thought a bit of the shining city upon a hill. The phrase comes from John Winthrop, who wrote it to describe the America he imagined. What he imagined was important because he was an early pilgrim, an early freedom man. He journeyed here on what today we'd call a little wooden boat. And like the other pilgrims, he was looking for a home that would be free. I've spoken of the shining city all my political life, but I don't know if I ever quite communicated what I saw when I said it. But in my mind, it was a tall, proud city built on rocks stronger than oceans, windswept, God-blessed, and teeming with people of all kinds living in harmony and peace.
The British Empire and the French Republic, linked together in their cause and in their need, will defend to the death their native soil, aiding each other like good comrades to the utmost of their strength. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it was subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until, in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old.
All levels of income are better off than they were in 1979. But what the honourable member is saying is that he would rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have. And what a policy! Yes, he would rather have the poor poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That is the liberal policy. Yes, it came out, he didn't intend it to, but he did.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
Here we hold the line against the night. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now, with you.
On Mojo 50 Radio. The Millennial Conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
I got my Mojo 50. got my mojo working, but I just don't know what to do, y'all.
You know, it's always been one of my favorite Mojo 50 bumps. I don't know what the name of the guy is, but it's a good bump. Trying to keep the dead air to the minimum. Also trying not to become emotional on the show. So, played for you a little 3-minute clip, and that was conservative quotes. That was way back in the beginning of the HoloNet, back when we were on Lanterns Media Network. And I had no idea how podcasts worked and how like radio in general worked. And I didn't realize, hey, people aren't going to listen to a 3-minute intro for an hour-long show. Moron. So I used to do these great big long elaborate introductions, and it was just stupid. And somebody actually had to point out to me, like, get to the point. And it took me like one of them that I actually drew inspiration from was like before he turned into an utter loon. I think it was Jeremy from CinemaSins. And it's like when there's more than 30 seconds of logos at the beginning of the movie, he would go like 45 seconds of blinking logos, you know. But yeah, I always liked that. That was kind of where I drew a lot of my inspiration from, was those conservative quotes. I just figured I'd share them with you, you know, because this is kind of a good opportunity to get those out to you. There's a lot that there's still to say. And there's a lot that I'm not going to say. Because I don't know what the outcome is going to be. People ask me, what's the show going to look like? I don't know yet. It's going to take time. It's going to take thought. It's going to take prayer. But I realized that it wasn't fair to you. It's not particularly fair to me either. To keep going with the HoloNet as it sits, when it has become unavoidably obvious that it's just not doing it anymore. That maybe it never did. That everything that I wanted to do with this show failed to really take form and take shape. And I can do better. And I will do better. And I will come back with something that is worthy of your time, worthy of your interest, that is worthy of a time slot on this network and any others who will carry it. Because there is room out there in the market for the right show and for the right voice. And I've just become convinced that this isn't it. You know, the nice background that I've got there that it took me 4 years to come up with. You know, the nice equipment setup that I have now so I can actually put on a show that's reasonably well produced for somebody who's doing it all himself, you know. Looking at the camera, talking, and also spinning the dials radio style. But something had to give, kids. Something had to. And I think those of you who have been with me for the long haul might have known it was coming. You might have. And I stress that what happened at Mojo and the recent controversies of the past weeks, as I said, present an opportunity. You have to look for opportunity in everything. That's how you advance. That's how you do better. It's not the Saul Alinsky tactic of never let a good crisis go to waste. No, it's take the opportunity. When you're getting tapped on the shoulder, you're being led. Not maliciously, no, but you might be getting tapped on the shoulder by the Almighty, being told, now is the time to change. The season is changing. It's not the season of loving. It's the time for the season of loving. Not bad if I do say so myself. No, it's a change in the seasons. This is not the United States that the HoloNet was born into. This is not the United States of January 26th, 2017. The dawn of the Trumpian age. We're far from it. It's pretty bad when your show basically lasts a presidency. It kind of sucks. But something has to change. What I envision is going to take a lot more time and a lot more preparation than what I put into a show right now. It will. It's going to involve having guests, having call-ins, potentially having a team in addition to myself. Some of you know, some of you don't, about the writing I've been doing. Where the heck is my window? There we go. Been writing for a couple of pages. So, for example, oh, come on, move over. All right, fine, you're going to be that way. Right-wing News Hour is one of them. GOP Times is another. There we go. Patriot United News as well. GOP Newsfeed is a fourth. Been writing for these pages for almost a year now. Tucker's huge reveal that I wrote on March 12th. Oh, it's today. Been doing a lot of this. I have some fantastic colleagues who I work with on these sites. I'd like to have them on. I'd like to reach out to them. Some of them are familiar faces that you may already know. Jason Gouffre, Defending 2A with Jason Gouffre. I'd like to have him back on. He was on Mojo 50 of late, but not lately. You know, I'd like to talk to Mike Phillip, the American Hook, who is, to my understanding, sticking with Mojo. My old friend K.E. Dean. I'd like to have Miss Dean on. She was always a bit more into the religious content than me, and always very adroit and erudite in that fashion. There's so much more to do, and it's going to take more time to do it. And I need to see what that looks like. I need to see if that looks like an hour every Saturday, or if that looks like 2 hours on a Sunday, or if it looks like an hour Monday through Friday, or if it looks like what it looks like, whatever shape it takes. It's not going to be called the HoloNet. It's going to be called the Matt Holloway Show. And I tinkered around with the first ever attempted video or attempted podcast or attempted vlog was the Matt Holloway Show. And it wasn't very good. There are 2 videos I've hidden on YouTube for the world to never see again. And they're the first 2 shows of the Matt Holloway Show. It lives on only in my email addresses, the matthollowayshow@gmail.com. But it's time. It's time. It's time. You know what was the most fun show that I've done in a while? I love it that whenever I go to type in BitChute, my computer always thinks I'm typing. Yeah. It was this one. Go to my BitChute. This one right here. How to Defeat the Leftists, showing them that America first knows no colors but red, white, and blue. When I had on Cicely Davis, who's running for Congress in Congressional District 5, and Billy Prempe, running in New Jersey's Congressional District 9. That was a fun show. That was a great show. And it took so much more work than I put in on a weekly show. And I need to figure out how to do that regularly, on a consistent basis. That, I think, is one of the best shows I've done in weeks, in months. You know, going back a bit further, I enjoyed talking to Sheriff Mark Lamb at AmFest and Jack Posobiec of Human Events Daily. That was fantastic. Oh, my interview with Teddy Daniels, running for Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania. That was a fantastic show that I truly enjoyed. I like talking to people, and I don't do it enough. A lot of this show is just me sitting here, pulling up a news article, and go. Just ranting for an hour. What am I doing? What am I bringing you? I'm pulling up articles and I'm bitching. Yeah, I'm leaving that one in. I'm pissing, moaning, complaining, and bitching for an hour. It's a dime a dozen content. All right? That's anybody, anywhere can do that for you. They're not going to be as handsome, as suave, as sophisticated. But you can get it elsewhere. You know? And you probably do. No one is rooting for Putin. Politics is war by other means. A lot of these were pretty solid shows. A lot of them, not that great. Q sent him. That was good work that I did. This is the video that got me pretty much shut down from YouTube. That's what my numbers were. I mean, my recommend's gone. They don't recommend my channel. Texas bumper cars. I thought that was a rather good one. But I'm just kind of running through what worked and what didn't. What worked and what didn't. What was fun for you? And what's not so much fun? Tell me. Let me know in the comments. You know? Touch base. I want you to be a part of this. I want you to be on the ground floor. And I'm going to be putting it out there on Facebook and on Twitter and in every other social media platform that I'm on. I'm on Gab. I'm on Parler. I'm on Getter. Feel free to hit me up. I want you to be a part of this too. You know, this is my big reach out to my audience. Tell me what's missing. What aren't you getting anywhere else? It used to be a lot of people would tell me that they liked the fact that I looked at world news, that I was paying attention to events in Europe. Right now, with the Ukraine-Russia shit going on, everybody suddenly became an Eastern European political expert. Holy crap. I was talking about Andrzej Duda 2 years ago. I was talking about the president of Austria, whose name presently escapes me, a year and a half ago. I was talking about Marine Le Pen in France 4 years ago. I pay attention to Europe. It's a thing. I've been talking about President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey and his neo-Ottomanism for a good long time. Now people suddenly care about that since shit's popping off in the Black Sea. Everybody's an expert now. I never claimed to be an expert. I just claimed to be fascinated by it, so I read a lot about it, so I followed the news on it, and I brought it to you. Maybe that's something that may be of value to you. You know, somebody who actually looks at the news around the world instead of just having a myopic view of what's happening here in the United States. Let me know. I would tell you about stuff going down in Australia, the COVID riots in Australia, the massive authoritarian crackdown of Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, who the CFO of Meta recently pointed out as them doing COVID better. Really, woman? Good Lord. Dear God. That's better? Yeah, sure. If you're a leftist nut job, I could see it being better. We've had a hell of a lot of fun. And I've enjoyed it. But I'd be lying if I said I saw this show as fulfilling a purpose right now. Pretty entertaining. I'm not the most entertaining. Not a comedian. I can be voice of the audience. I'm fairly good at that. But I need to be able to bring you a unique value proposition. Something you can't get anywhere else. Something that I can do better than anyone else. Or something that's overall unique. And some guy explosively ranting about the news of the week. Guys, it's done. Or a dime a dozen. Shows where you can laugh at it, like Defenders. I love the way they're so irreverent. I think Crowder's good for that too. I love Whiskey Six and the gang. They are just so completely off the rails. It is hysterical, the tangents they get on sometimes. Brad and Ron do a great show in the morning. I love what Ron and Rocky Stucci are doing now too, the paranormal stuff. It's like, yeah, it's time for, George Norrie's been running that game for a long time. I think there's room for new blood in that, and I love what they're doing with the paranormal. It's fantastic listening. Izzo, I think bringing on Ashley was a fantastic idea. I think she balances him out. And I've really enjoyed listening to the show. I think about it more and more. And so many of our shows here on Mojo 50, well, some former shows now, but so many of them had a pivot. They had a point where they really, really changed inherently. And I just couldn't find that with the HoloNet. Just couldn't find it. So I think it better. I think it better to end it now by choice. With our heads up and with dignity. And say, that didn't work. And come back to you better with something that will. I don't think that's too much to ask of myself to give to my audience. An audience that has stuck with me for so long and through so many changes. I owe you that. And I also owe you my deep and heartfelt thanks. One last time, I suppose it wouldn't hurt. I'd like you to go check out mypillow.com. Use your promo code Mojo50. That's mypillow.com. Mypillow.com. Promo code Mojo50. I love their slippers. I actually had them here. No, the bathrobe's fantastic. I love the Giza Dream Sheets. I sleep on them every night. Fantastic products, fantastic company, great people. Okay, they have my respect and personal gratitude. They have been amazing to work with. Love the opportunity to work with these people anytime. Okay, mypillow.com, promo code Mojo50. And of course, go to preparewithmojo50.com. Preparewithmojo50.com, one of our greatest sponsors and partners, My Patriot Supply. I just ordered another batch. You should too, especially in these uncertain times. 4-week emergency food supply is my go-to. It's $297 each right now. It gives you 16 varieties of food, 25-year shelf life, breakfast, lunch, dinner, drink, snacks, free shipping and handling included, 2,000 calories a day. So this is to feed an adult, okay? With the kids, you can stretch it a little longer, all right? Preparewithmojo50.com. Anything you buy after you click on that, Mojo50 still gets the credit. So make sure you start there in your journey at My Patriot Supply, all right? Preparedness, not panic. Love working with those guys. It's fantastic. So, where from here? Well, today it's March 12th. It's my 11th wedding anniversary today. Happy anniversary, baby. Amy and I celebrating 11 years as man and wife. 11 years ago, walked down the aisle, took those vows. Just coincidental. But going to be taking her out tonight for a nice dinner. Possibly, it's going to sound dumb, but we're big gamers. Shoot over to Dave & Buster's. Play some games. I think it's going to be good. In the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot of thought and a lot of prayer. There's going to be a lot of graphic design. There's going to be a lot of testing out theories for a new show, for a new concept. I'm going to try my best to keep you all apprised and let you know what's going on, what's in my head, what I'm imagining. Because I want you to be a part of it. I want Mojo50 to be a part of it, and I want it to be a part of Mojo50. As I owe this company and this audience so very, very much. And I will never forget that. And I hope you don't forget that either. And I mean that deeply. Well, folks, it's time for the final contingency. The censorship has become so high, the world has changed so much, that the HoloNet must also change. So, from Phoenix, Arizona, for the very last time, as your host of the HoloNet on the mighty, the powerful Mojo50, I leave you with the final contingency. Near my God to thee, that I made for this show. Good night. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.